We've got a classic pistol today, the Colt Model 1903 Pocket Pistol. Hi, I'm Jim Humphrey with Imminent Threat Defense Firearms Training, and I'll take you through the disassembly and assembly of this Model 1903 today. Produced between 1903 and 1927, about 22,000 of these were manufactured. This pistol was produced in the 38 ACP caliber. So let's go through a clearing drill and let's get started. I've already removed the magazine. This pistol does not have a slide lock. There's no way to lock the slide to the rear, so we'll hold to the rear while we visually and physically inspect the chamber of the magazine well. We'll look away and do it again. Pistol's clear. We're ready to get started.
To remove the slide, start by cocking the hammer. The slide is retained by the slide lock. This transverse mortise pin removes from the left-hand side and is released by depressing the takedown lug. The slide lock should fall out or easily press out, no force required. The slide in 1903 removes by pulling it to the rear. Remove the 4 stock screws and the stocks. This is a basic field strip and provides access for cleaning and lubrication. The barrel is retained by 2 pins. This causes the barrel to have a rather unusual parallel lockup movement. Using a brass square-shouldered punch, remove the front pin. This retains the takedown plug and the front link. Leave the punch in place. Now, while holding the barrel against the frame, depress and retain the takedown plug and carefully remove the punch. Then release the spring pressure and remove the plug. Be careful not to lift up in the front of the barrel. Using a punch or tool, depress the retractor spring slightly. Hold the retractor spring and lift up on the front of the barrel. Now carefully release the retractor spring. Remove the retractor spring and follower. Using a brass square-shouldered punch, remove the rear link pin. This will release the barrel. The barrel should lift easily out of the frame. Note, these 2 link pins are identical. The 2 barrel links are attached to the barrel by short link pins that are staked and should not be removed. But if removed, they would need to be carefully marked. There are 64 different ways to install those links, only one of which is probably right. The action components are retained by the hammer screw and 2 pins, the Sear and safety pin and the magazine catch pin. Take this opportunity to note the orientation of the Sear spring, the Sear, and the safety. I often take a few photos of parts before I remove them. It helps during assembly. Before removing these pins, we need to gently lower the hammer. The magazine catch pin is under spring pressure. With a brass punch, remove the pin. Reach inside the frame and press down on the magazine catch with your thumb and relieve the spring pressure. Then remove the punch. Then remove the magazine catch. The Sear spring can now be removed. The center leaf of the Sear spring is retained by a pin fixed to the back of the trigger stirrup. To remove the Sear spring, press down on the center leaf, disengaging the pin, and gently pull the trigger stirrup out of the way. Now gently remove the Sear spring. Handle the Sear spring carefully and notice the orientation when you remove it. Remove the trigger by pulling it back and rotating it out of the slot. To remove the Sear and the safety, press out the pin and the part should fall free. The mainspring screw can now be removed. This will slowly release the mainspring tension. With the screw removed, the mainspring will fall free. The hammer is retained by a screw. Always be sure to use the correct size driver on the screws. With the mainspring removed, there will be no pressure on the hammer screw. Do not use a hammer or punch on the hammer screw. It's not a pin. The hammer removes through the inside of the frame. There is a small roller on the hammer that engages with the mainspring. Check the roller for freedom of movement. The roller is retained by a tight-fitting pin. We'll leave it alone for now. The ejector is retained by the ejector pin. This pin requires a 3/64 inch punch, and on this gun it proved to be very tight-fitting, and removing it risks scratching the finish. So we'll leave it installed. However, when the pin is removed, the ejector just lifts straight out. The slide has two pins, the extractor pin and the firing pin locking pin. The extractor pin can be removed from the inside of the slide. This one proved to be too tight, but if it is removed, it must be replaced so that it doesn't protrude inside the slide. The firing pin lock pin can be hammered out. Leave the punch in place until the spring pressure on the firing pin is retained. Then remove the punch and slowly release the spring pressure. The firing pin and spring can be removed. To install the firing pin, note the orientation of the groove in the pin. Reinsert the firing pin and the spring with the groove facing up. Insert the locking pin from the left side by hand to get it started. Then apply a little pressure to the firing pin to line up the groove with the locking pin channel. Press the locking pin in by hand, and it should retain the firing pin. Then use a brass hammer to drive home the locking pin. Use a brass punch, seat the locking pin so it is recessed equally on both sides of the slide. Before we insert the hammer, we need to understand how the mainspring engages the hammer. The mainspring will be oriented to curve to the back, and the tip will be inserted against the roller of the hammer. First, insert the hammer from inside the frame. Line up the holes and insert the hammer screw by hand. Do not hammer on the hammer screw. It's not a pin. The hammer screw has fine threads, so be careful not to cross-thread it. This is the orientation of the mainspring. Insert the tip of the mainspring against the hammer roller. Check the location by moving the hammer. Then, to line up the threaded hole for the mainspring screw, hold the hammer in the uncocked position and apply slight upward pressure to the mainspring to hold it against the hammer and insert the mainspring screw. The mainspring screw has fine threads. Be careful not to cross-thread it. Inspect and test the hammer for correct and smooth movement before progressing. Probably the most confusing parts to assemble on a Colt are the safety and sear. These two parts are difficult to see when installed, so understanding their proper orientation is a challenge. The sear has a sharp edge at the top that will engage the hammer, so it curves towards the rear. The safety and sear are held by one pin and fit together thus. The trigger has a pin that engages a notch in the safety. So here, the safety and sear are mounted outside the frame to show their orientation. Note the sharp edge of the sear is on top and towards the hammer, and the polished edge of the safety is down and towards the back. The top of the safety will also have to come through the hole in the frame. Installing these two parts can be done with a slave pin or an alignment drift. Here, with an alignment drift, the sear is installed first with the help of some tweezers. Align the sear and use the drift pin to hold the sear in place so you can reposition the frame. To install the safety, the drift is partially removed but twisted to hold the sear in place so the safety can be positioned. Both are then held by the drift so the pin can be pushed in and replace the drift. This is a loose fit pin, so no hammering should be required. To install the trigger and the leaf spring for the safety, sear, and trigger, first orient the leaf spring. Insert the leaf spring so the arms fit under the sear. Note the hole in the center leaf that will engage the trigger pin. Orient the trigger so the notch will be towards the top of the pistol when installed. Ensure the pin in the trigger engages the hole in the leaf spring. When installed, the magazine catch will compress the leaf spring and complete the reassembly. Orient the magazine catch and place it on top of the leaf spring. Press down on the catch, compress the leaf spring, and retain them with a drift pin. Now, insert the magazine catch pin. It may take a few light taps of the pin with a brass hammer, but it shouldn't require much force. Note sometimes it can be difficult to compress the spring to align the pin. It may be easier to place something like this wooden dowel on top of it to gain some leverage. Make sure the pin is even on both sides. It's easiest to install the barrel by installing the rear link first. The rear link fits in a recess in the frame just above the trigger. Position both barrel links so they point straight down and drop the barrel onto the frame. Align the hole in the rear link pin with the hole in the frame and insert the pin. This should only require a few light taps from the hammer. To install the front pin, raise the front of the barrel and insert the retractor spring, the follower, and the takedown plug. Orient the link so it will fit through the takedown plug and align with the hole in the frame. Compress the spring and lower the barrel. This will retain the spring. Be very careful at this stage not to lift the barrel. This will forcefully release the spring and follower, which could cause serious injury. Compress the takedown plug and manipulate the barrel to align the link. Aligning the link is best done with a drift pin. Insert the pin and chase out the drift with a few light taps from the hammer. If you meet any resistance, stop and realign the link. The slide is retained by a slide lock, which is a mortise style pin. There's a small retaining nub on one corner which aligns with a slot on the slide. The slide lock must be correctly oriented. This orientation is critical to prevent damage to the firearm. To install the slide, first cock the hammer, then align the slide with the guide rails at the back of the pistol and press the slide all the way forward. Orient the slide lock and insert it from the left-hand side. The slide lock should insert and snap into place easily. No hammering is required. Finally, install the two stock panels and the screws, perform a final function check, and the reassembly is complete.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I'm Jim Humphrey with Imminent Threat Defense Firearms Training. Remember, join the NRA, be safe out there, and enjoy your firearms.